Okay, so hello everybody. I would like to welcome everybody on stream, also here on the Zoom, who are already welcome like a few minutes ago. But that's how this streamed Zoom events work. My name is Mikal. I'm part of the Uroboros team, and I'm very happy that you find your way to this off event of Uroboros Festival, which was postponed due to the situation. But we are happy that we still could host Miranda Marcus and her workshop as a part of the program of the festival. I would just in the beginning, I would like to thank again to our partners, because without their support, the festival couldn't happen. The festival was supported by City of Prague, by Slovak Art Council, and also by Avast Foundation. And also, I just would like to mention that this specific event is part of the track of the festival, which was focused on the topic of algorithmic governments, chains, and bonds. And we were mostly discussing the relation of blockchain to contemporary art practice, but also Miranda's workshop extended the scope of the workshop. Miranda Marcus, hello and welcome. Miranda is a designer and a producer working with BBC Research and Development, and also with Women's Mental Health team. She's running like interdisciplinary research and development programs, exploring new ways of using data, building technology, and prioritize social and climate justice in the engineering processes. Her work combines participatory and speculative design with social science methods. Some of the topics she's interested in right now include circular economy, feminist technologies for health, and science. So I think that's it from me. Miranda, floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm just going to put a couple of slides up just to basically say who I am again and what this workshop is about, and then we'll just do some, because it's a small group, lovely to meet you all. Maybe you have some quick introductions so we know who each other are, but bear with me for a second while I just share my screen. So can you all see that? Can someone give me a little thumbs up? Is that working okay? Okay, great. So who am I? I'm Miranda. So thank you for that. I sent you that information, Michael, to introduce myself, but I've put some slightly more simple information here, which is I'm a writer, I'm a designer, and I'm a creative producer. My background is in design and anthropology, but I've been working for about 10 years across science and engineering. And I am a data nerd, but I can't count. So I'm one of those people that thinks about data, but I'm heavily dyslexic. So actually doing data analysis isn't my thing. So I think about the kind of social side of technology and how we can build practical data infrastructures that are beneficial to the world. Hopefully. So this workshop is about the environmental power of data. So what that means is how data shapes our physical and our social environments. And so I'm going to spend the first section of it giving you guys some background information and some theory and some ideas. Then we've got some talking, I've got some provocations for us. And then lastly, there's an exercise about writing, using a bit of speculative writing. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm just going to stop sharing, and I wanted to invite everybody just to introduce themselves. So maybe your name, a bit about yourself, what you do, maybe if you have any specific interest in this field. And I'm going to pick because it's easiest that way. And also it's my workshop. Leela, do you want to go first?
Hi, yeah, I'm Layla. I'm a PhD student based in Northumbria University School of Design. That's in the northeast of England. And sort of background in social science and anthropology. And I'm looking at commercial UX design and how designers think about data uses and innovate with data.
Amazing. Lovely to meet you. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to say, because you'll probably know way more about this than me. Dominika?
Hi all, I'm Dominika, and currently I'm an intern at Tactical Tech, which is NGO based in Berlin, which try to engage citizens and civil society actors to explore and mitigate the impacts of technology on society. And also I am working as a facilitator at the Doc Center, and I'm developing their workshops. So I'm also a colleague of Michal. Thanks. Nice to be here.
Lovely to meet you. We've got Hannah, do you want to go?
Hi, I'm from Bratislava, Slovakia. I just follow Doc's programs from here very often, and I have background in sinology and curatorial studies. I used to study on a new media department in China, and I'm rather here just like for my personal interest, not really, yeah, such a high level interest like all yours probably.
Super lovely to meet you. And PC, I think that your name probably isn't PC, it's what's written on your thing, but it's lovely to meet you. She or he or they have popped a note in the chat saying they can't talk at the moment, but they're a tech writer for EU startups. So welcome, lovely to meet you. Okay, I'm gonna jump back into the presentation and give you guys some background on what I've been thinking. If anybody needs a break, I was going to sort of aim for a break maybe in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so, but if anybody needs a break before then, just shout. When I'm sharing, oh no, I think I can see the chat when I'm sharing, but if I'm not responding, just yell at me. All right, back into the presentation. Here we go. You guys can see that? Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. All right, cool. Who are you? We've done that bit already. Lovely. We know who you are. So we're going to be talking about the environmental power of data. There's loads of different types of power, but in this presentation, I've been thinking about these two types of power of data: disciplinary power versus environmental power. And this is something that Foucault talked about. And so he described disciplinary power as laws and rules that provide people with a kind of internal sense of right and wrong. And because of that internal sense of right and wrong, it shapes their behavior. In contrast to that, environmental is a much more implicit form of power, where environments are designed in a way that makes certain behaviors easy and other behaviors less easy. And that's much more difficult to identify, and it's much more difficult to understand, and it's much more difficult to have agency over if you're an individual. Though of course disciplinary power is also quite difficult too. Just an example of environmental power in the physical world, we see it in the UK anyway a lot, with hostile architecture. So public spaces designed in a way with certain interventions that, for example, prohibit people sleeping on a bench or in on a step, on a doorway, you know. So it's shaping how people can use public space in certain ways, benefiting some and marginalizing others. How do you argue with a bench, you know? In the digital world, we see this in lots of different ways, but I think a really good example is with the way that cookies are designed, cookie notifications. So GDPR, we're all, I think, in Europe, so we're all in the world of GDPR. Whenever you go on any new website, you get a cookie notification, which is, you know, great. You're being asked for your consent, but they are all pretty universally designed in a way which just funnels us down the path of clicking yes or clicking okay and hoping for the best. I think it's been maybe 2-3 years since GDPR came in, and there really hasn't been that much design attention given to how to enable people to really effectively give their consent, to really understand what they're consenting for. And this sort of points to the tension between people just wanting to use the services and the responsibility or not of those providing those services to enable people to make effective decisions about their data. So what does this mean? So we all know that we live in a society with increasingly complex layers of data collection and use. And as individuals, it's often hard to know how to deal with this complexity. So on the one hand, data-enabled technology is giving us huge amounts of value. So all sorts of innovation, big innovation and small innovation. And I really want to say from the outset, I am not anti-data. I love data. I think that data has the potential to, and it is already absolutely revolutionizing the world, but it's a tool and it can be used well or it can be used badly. And so we have these big and these small technologies that are giving us value, but most of the time, we know implicitly that our data is being aggregated and used in ways which we can't really see and we don't really have any control over. And it pulls up this tension between big data and small data. Small data meaning our personal data, and big data being that aggregated data. And how and whether we have agency over that relationship between the big and the small data. So this is a quote here from Deborah Lupton, who is a fantastic anthropologist who has worked extensively in the field of self-quantification. And she's made this point that the boundaries between small data and big data are porous. And this has been really, really clearly shown many times, but the Norwegian Consumer Council last year did a report released a report that found that 10 apps that they tested, despite the fact that it was illegal, were transmitting user data to at least 135 different parties involved in advertising and behavioral profiling. And this is data that was all sorts of different data, from location, age, also things like sexuality, religion, drug use. And this just demonstrates that the fact that even though there's regulation and legislation there to prohibit this, it's still happening because it's implicit, it's invisible, it sits much more in that environmental power category than the disciplinary category. And this sort of leads me to think about or to suggest this idea that often when I say we, I mean kind of generally, we think of data as an abstraction of the real world. But actually, it's a construction. It requires natural resources and human labor in order to make it. And there are all sorts of decisions that go into that. It is not, as I'm sure we all know, but it's worth pointing out, it is not objective and it's not neutral and it's not a kind of pure, it doesn't have a relationship immediately with truth. And that's, there's been a huge amount of material come out recently about bias, racial bias, social bias. All of that is related to this idea that data and data-enabled technologies aren't objective, they are constructed. And it's, this happens in multiple ways. We have this social extraction, often, Shoshana Zuboff talks about the surveillance economy, the commodification of our personal private experience, this social extraction, and there's also environmental extraction. All of the materials and all of the minerals for devices and the carbons for servers and all of the wider global supply chains that support data-enabled softwares, they're all very much present in that, but they are kind of they're you can't see them, you can't access them when you're just interacting with an app or a piece of technology. So Kate Crawford has recently released this fantastic piece of work. It's an anatomy of AI. So she's taken just the Alexa and Amazon Alexa and traced all of the different processes that go into creating it, both physical and digital. And I'm going to send the link around in a minute. Maybe you guys have come across this before, maybe not, but it's really, really worth getting into the detail of this. So I'm just going to send the link around and spend sort of 2 minutes looking at it to really take in the complexity and the amount of different material processes that are going into these systems. But I want to just say that we're in this workshop are going to be focusing on this central part, on the kind of the relationship between data and the physical world around it and the people using them. Okay, so 2 minutes there. I'm going to quickly, is anybody already familiar with the map? Or is it new? Okay, Dominika and Leila. Okay, so we'll just a couple of minutes, if that's okay, just to have a look through it, because even if you are familiar with it already, it's a really impressive piece of work. The link is coming into the chat. There you go. Okay, I'll get in touch with you in a sec. How are we doing? Does that make sense? And okay, so I'm very aware that the word environmental might to some people mean, that broader ecological, and it is related to that. But for this session, we're going to be focusing more on the relationship between the physical world that people live in and the digital world and our social interactions and stuff like that. But the map hopefully really clearly articulates how much construction goes into that. And we kind of don't think about that much. And so I really want to focus on whether or not there's value in making that visible and understanding that a little bit more. Any kind of, just at this point, you don't have to, but any thoughts or questions or things that don't seem clear? All good? Okay, I'm going to start screen sharing in. So, situated data analysis. So the name of this workshop is Every Data Has a Setting. Every data set has a setting. And really that is just trying to acknowledge the fact that all data has context. And without that context, it's not as useful and it will be used in a way which isn't as effective. So acknowledging that context, acknowledging the setting, acknowledging the situation is really important. And there's a huge amount of really fantastic scholarship that talks about situated data and the value around that. And one such set of scholarship is this methodology, which was being released last year, called Situated Data Analysis, which was developed by Professor Jill Repwerk. She is a professor of digital culture at the University of Bergen. And really what this is, what it's focused on is trying to enable analysis of those encoded power relationships between social media platforms and apps and users, the platform technologies themselves, and the ideologies that sit underneath them. Trying to just unpick it, make it clear, make it visible. So I thought it might be a useful sort of way of thinking about these issues, because often we're thinking about these big issues. They're really, really abstract, And actually, when you try and understand what it means for you as an individual in practice, that's very challenging. That translation between the big and the small, porous as it may be, is really, it slips through your fingers quite a lot. So this feels like a practical way of trying to just understand and get involved there. So there's a video here. It's only a couple of minutes, but Jill Wetberg has made this herself, so she's able to explain the method better than I probably will be. So we'll just watch this really quickly.
Social media and big data are drastically shaping our lives and our world by exerting two types of power upon us. On one hand, they exert disciplinary power, shaping our choices through internalized norms. For example, maybe you learn that smiling a certain way in selfies gets more likes, so you start smiling that way every time you take a selfie, even if you're not going to share it. On the other hand, social media wields an environmental power. Our digital environment manipulates our behavior by making it easier to do some things and harder to do other things. For example, your Facebook feed adjusts its content based on your online shopping habits and everything else Facebook knows about you. Big data often claims to show us everything from an external, objective point of view. But as described by Donna Haraway, this God trick is impossible. Knowledge is only ever partial and is always situated in a specific context. Therefore, research from Professor Jill Walker-Retberg uses situated data analysis, which helps us see through the God trick to uncover the encoded power relationships within our data. It's a new method for analyzing how data are constructed and then presented back to us in different ways. For example, with situated data analysis, we can identify that Strava, a fitness tracking app, situates the data it collects into 4 layers. 1. Users see their own data in the app. 2. Anyone can see the global data in data visualizations. 3. City planners can buy access to a dashboard for a specific city. And 4. The data are processed as zeros and ones by algorithms and could be used by a navigation app to recommend the best route through a city. The first 2 layers are representations of data which people need to be able to understand large amounts of data. But in the last 2 layers, the data become operational. They do something rather than just being shown to someone, and this leads to more environmental kinds of power. Situated data analysis gives us tools to analyze social media platforms and apps with the knowledge that data are always constructed and situated.
Okay, there we go. So, seems kind of simple and is a useful way, or hopefully it's a useful way of just being able to get to grips with this broad, porous, implicit world of data sharing.
Social media and big data.
There you go. So, from the situated data analysis method, I've kind of pulled out, I'm trying to simplify it basically to say that there are these kind of different ways of looking at use of data. So you've got 2 situations, representational and operational. You've got the 2 audiences, human audiences and machine audiences for the data that is, and the 2 scales of data. You've got the individual data and you've got the aggregated data. And really, it's these lower 3 categories that when they're used together, that's when data is seen to exert environmental power in the way that we've been talking about it. There's a really useful breakdown of Strava there, which again is pointing to the fact that this isn't necessarily just about our online social behavior. It can also be relevant to our physical environments as well. And I wanted to point to a positive example of environmental power being exerted. And again, it's kind of about our relationship with physical environment, but also about a social element as well. So Driver's Seat is a relatively new organization. They are a cooperative which are owned by gig economy drivers that are working across all sorts of different gig economy apps like Uber, Lyft, Deliveroo, DoorDash, really anything where people are moving goods or other people around and having that work mediated by an algorithm. So how it works is they pool their stats in order to enable them to take control more effectively over their own work and maximize their insights, and that happens for free. So they support each other by sharing their data with each other in order to balance the power dynamic between them as drivers and the platforms that are mediating their work. They also share that data with local governments who otherwise wouldn't have any insight into this world of private transport that's happening around them, so they can better plan public services. So that data is being used not just to benefit the drivers and the platforms, but also the wider community, which is a really positive example of environmental power. I made a very quick breakdown of that because sometimes it's easier to see it visually. So without that platform, the driver seat platform, you've got drivers, they're doing their work, all of that information is going into the platforms, and the value of that data is being shared essentially exclusively with the shareholders. But if you have driver's seat, then those drivers are sharing their data both with Uber, with the platforms, but also with each other. And then the people who can, the stakeholders who can get value from that data are both the shareholders, the drivers, and the public planners, which, you know, is lovely, good, positive forms of environmental power. And I found this, it just felt like Beyonce opening up the world of data and benefiting more people with the same information. That's the kind of positive type of environmental power, which I think is really important to remember, because I don't want to just be really negative about how data is used in the surveillance economy. There is loads and loads of amazing innovations that can be enabled here. However, there are some less positive examples, and this is what I wanted to, this is our first kind of exercise. I wanted to talk this through with you guys a little bit more, taking these two examples of commercial apps. So we've got Tinder and we've got Glow, which is a menstrual tracking app. You guys might not have used either of them, but hopefully you have an awareness of these types of softwares anyway. So just in case you haven't used them, Tinder is a dating app where you get matched. You have a profile, public profile, and then you get matched with other people. You swipe left if you don't like someone, you swipe right if you do like someone, and if you both swipe right, then you get to connect. Glow is a menstrual tracking app, and you upload your menstrual symptoms, your other health data, your behaviors, and you get insights on your cycle and support to manage your menstrual cycle more effectively, and also for conception if you're trying to get pregnant. So I've done the legwork for you guys. We don't have to go through this in a lot of detail, but I did a little bit of situated data analysis. On the left-hand side, you've got here some of the data, sample of the data that's collected, and you can see how much sensitive data is collected there. You've got name, location, sexual behavior, physical attributes, medications, menstrual symptoms, moods, sleep, alcohol intake, pregnancy status, steps, sleep, weight, water intake, and also for Glow, you have chat data, and those are anonymized. So there's a huge amount of data there. And from the representational side of things, with a human audience, both individual and aggregated, you've got really useful stuff going on there. You've got personalized trends and predictions derived from the data. You've got support with people managing their own health, and you've got that community element, which is, you know, really positive. On the operational side, however, Glow, and this is not the case for all menstrual apps, but Glow specifically does share that data with third parties for advertising purposes and also to improve their algorithm. And so on the one side, you've got that positive environmental power, giving women agency, more agency over their health. On the other hand, you've got this advertising side of things, which does sort of feel, I put this GIF up there, it felt kind of appropriate. I'll watch you while you're asleep, and then I'm going to try and sell you things based on your hormone levels. It's kind of creepy, or I think it is anyway. And then Tinder, we've got a whole load of data there. You've got the profile data, and as well as the profile data, you've got you know, all sorts of phone data, what phone you're on, where you are, all that kind of stuff. So you've got name, location, gender, how you describe yourself, and also a lot of them link with your social media accounts. So you then get all of that data, the friends, your friends' data, all the likes, all of the feeds, all of that stuff goes in there. And you have the actual activity of what happens on the app itself. So how much you use it, whether or not you like who you match with, all of the messaging data, including the images, where often they're using computer vision to scan the images. So I'm sure there's some interesting content that they're privy to there. So from a representational side of things, you see the data. The data that you see is basically the profiles that you're matched with, which is what the thing is for. On the operational side of things, though, you've got, again, the data being used and shared to improve the service and for third-party advertising. And you also have quite a specific way where they train the algorithm to enable you to match with people, which is called collaborative filtering. And this is kind of problematic in a slightly different way. So Mozilla and Ben Bergman collaborated to create this game called Monster Match, which basically shows you how those matching algorithms work. And what they do is they narrow down the profiles in your queue based partly on the first couple of people that you swipe left or right on, and then partly on the behavior of others. So it's aggregated with the behavior of others. And what that means is that they have a nice, efficient app. But in practice, it means that I will only get matched with people that other people like me liked. And that results in certain profiles routinely getting excluded and whole sets of communities being marginalized, which, you know, isn't ideal. And that's again, it's that type of implicit environmental power that's very difficult to point to, but is written into the way that the algorithms and the use of data is designed. So I thought we could have a quick discussion about this. I've got quite a nice small group here. So there's a Miro board if we just want to think about it a little bit, but I thought we could just have a conversation and see what you guys think about this. Let me just open up the chat. So here is a Miro board. I'm going to stop sharing there. For a minute, I just thought that I'd stopped, I dropped out of Zoom and I've been talking to myself for ages, but here I am. I'm still in here. I guess the first question before we head to the Miro is, does that make sense? B, does it matter? Do we care? Is it important? What do you guys think?
Hi. Yeah, I know it all makes sense to me. It's kind of what I've been looking at as well. And I do have that slight researcher anxiety that is it just certain people who are interested in researching these things, and how do you make publics aware of what's happening with the data and that they actually care? Like, is it too late to make people concerned about what's happening with the data? Yeah.
Totally.
For me, a lot of new information. I never used Tinder, but I didn't know there would be input of chat and messaging and all that, as you mentioned. And I hope your researchers find ways to get these informations to general public. I think it's very important what you're doing.
Okay. Dominique, any thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's deeply important, and I think all of us should care. And because especially it's who owns and has the data has a power, and still I think less and less people has like a huge amount of data about us. So I think we really should care about it.
Phew. Okay, great. Well, the rest of this workshop has some validity then. I'm absolutely thrilled to hear that at least 2/3 of us, or 3/4 of us even, have some sort of skin in the game. So I've got a couple of other prompts just to help us think this through. If you want to click through to the Miro board, which looks a little bit messy for some reason right now, but there we go. Oh, I've tidied it up. So some of the other questions I thought is, how would it be beneficial to make this stuff more visible? And if so, how could it be more visible? Should there be other data collected or less data collected? And how could that data be shared? Who else could it be shared with? I'm thinking about that when I've put that prompt in. I was thinking about driver's seat. They are increasing the data sharing, not decreasing it, and affecting change, environmental change in that way. Can we think about not just, sometimes we want to just lock it down, but can we think about opening up as well as closing down? Should we just spend maybe 2 minutes kind of thinking, and if there's any thoughts you've got, popping it on the mirror board, and there's post-its. I hope that's clear. If you've got any questions, give me a shout, and then maybe we can go through it. So I'll keep should we say sort of 5-ish minutes, but I'll keep an eye on how much activity there is on the board. Go for it.
So perfectly, the scenario, the question is about like that we should think of Tinder, for example, or what we would do that with data from Tinder if it would be kind of the project you showed us before, the taxi or the drivers app when they share their data. So this is the question so we can try to imagine the Tinder as this kind of the open kind of access, and so what is happening with the data, who is it using it for, actually.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, can you imagine ways that we could be working with this data differently, or just your kind of personal response to if so Hannah was saying that this is some new information, like does that make her feel differently about how she might use a service like that? Should it be that the app providers are more transparent about these things? If they are, how could they do that? So it's quite broad. Just anything that comes to mind, pop it up there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, how are we doing? People still got stuff to say? Should we work through these notes? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Thumbs up. All right, cool. I like that, Dominica. That was very whew. So should we start? Leila? Sorry, you did say it earlier. Do you want to work through do you want to just talk through the points that you made?
Sorry, it's on mute. Yeah, I was thinking about for Tinder about organizations working with sexual health. So seeing like sort of targeting, but in a good way, certain communities for sexual health messaging, or seeing how often people are meeting up, that type of thing. And I just put from a research point of view about the collaborative filtering, how it tells us something about you know, those social norms, that thing about it's choosing people who are suggesting people who are the same as you. That kind of gives us some insight into user behavior.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, the fact that you've got all of these other services like JSwipe and things which are particularly for certain communities, it's just that's the consequence of them getting of certain communities feeling like they are marginalized within those mainstream platforms. Yeah.
And then on Glow, I'd put again just the idea that data could be shared with like public health planning services, or seeing what the demand is for certain, you know, if people are using it for particular problems with their mental health, or looking at to conceive, like, you know, as a sort of more demand for fertility services, that type of thing. And then how that could I use that data, and could it be linked into my doctor? So in the UK, could that be linked with the NHS records, where it's automatically, it's kind of presenting the doctors with a really good data set that they can make clinical decisions from? Because at the minute, it's kind of like go and speak to them about something, but they don't have any data to go on. And I think my general comment was just around going back to the idea about context of use. So if it's something official like the government or the NHS, would I be more or less cautious about sharing it versus something that's seen as sort of social and for fun, like Tinder, or, you know, a gaming app, something like that? Be a bit more freer with sharing that information. They don't sort of link up the consequential chain of where the data goes.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point. Dominica, have you got any stuff that you want to run through?
Yeah, actually, what I was thinking about is that both of the platforms actually somehow benefits from our kind of vulnerabilities, because, for example, Tinder, you know, we really want to meet someone. So actually then we maybe don't care and don't realize how much data we like give out. And also with the second app, that if we really want to, for example, get pregnant or whatever, so we can start to use this platform and don't realize what's going on behind. So I think for the question, I was more thinking about that there should be more transparency guaranteed, and also some kind of more shared knowledge about what these platforms do, how data are collected, and especially how these algorithms work, because for me it's like a huge shadow, and it can have impact for us. So this was something what I was thinking about, and actually still I'm really unsure, for example, even though if these data, for example, would be shared with some kind of public services and so on, still when there is no transparency, then we do not know if, for example, public services, what they do with our data. Still, maybe just the problem wouldn't be that it's not some kind of private hands of companies, but now it would be like huge amounts of data about us in some kind of like, for example, governmental hands. Or so these are my thoughts.
Yeah. And that's a really, and that last point you were making really links with what we were talking about a moment ago in terms of the context. And there's something quite interesting about that's, again, I keep on going on about driver's seat. I just think it's a great example because it's owned by the drivers and it's a co-op. So they are the ones who've taken control of their own data. But in order to do that, it takes a huge amount of like time and attention and knowledge and all of that kind of stuff. So there's this kind of trade-off there, which is really difficult. And then you sort of think, well, you're right, like you guys are profiting from us in some of our most vulnerable ways. But I don't really have a kind of channel to understand more about that. And there's this whole thing about value exchange. Like you guys are getting loads of value from us. I'm getting some value, but there's all this like bigger value, and I don't really know how to access it or talk about it or like who should be telling me about it. And I guess that's basically why I've been thinking about this and where that's some of the context for why I was put this workshop together in the first place. So thank you for articulating it in a way which was possibly better than the way that I articulated it. So thanks. Hannah, did you have any points?
I didn't really, but I agree with most of those there. And just like one thing I've been watching recently, or YouTube was feeding me videos about sexual predators, and with Tinder I thought perhaps if there are any NGOs, maybe you could provide data for because you said there are those computer vision to scan images, so maybe to prevent sexual predators to be on such platforms like dating platforms.
Yeah, exactly. But then who governs that? You get into all those really crunchy questions about who decides what's predatory behavior and that kind of stuff.
I didn't really write it because exactly like how would you do that? Who would decide, etc. So, yeah.
But what we have at the moment is, so for example, if you are in certain areas in the world where there is laws against being homosexual, there are examples of, for example, in Chechnya, people, their Grindr profiles being arrested, them legally, the government, the police legally accessing that Grindr data and then finding their networks as well. So you have this kind of networked thing. And that comes back again to this idea about the boundaries between big data and small data being porous and us trying to just live our lives. But actually what we do and the decisions that we make with our technology sometimes affecting all of these, this much broader community. And again, it's about that vulnerability thing. I think, Dominika, that, talking about the data about us is really, it makes us vulnerable. It is an Achilles heel. It's a kind of, there's a Trisha Wang is a great, I'm sure some of you guys know about her. She's a fantastic, again, anthropologist, and she talks about data about us as being a bit like a quantum particle, because at the same time it represents us and it's always going to be related to us. It's like a part of us, but it's also a commodity that gets sold and all this stuff happens with it. And so you've got these things happening at the same time. And we kind of want to think about it in a much more simple way. We want to think about it as being one or the other, but they're not. Like, it's always happening in parallel, which makes it really difficult. Okay, do you guys want a break, or we've got one more activity, or you want to power straight through? What we're going to do? Okay, tell you what, I will tell you what the activity is, and then you guys can decide if you want a break or not. I'm going to share my screen again, which, there we go. Confusingly, I was on the wrong bit. All right. Can you see that? I hope you can. I now can't see you guys, which is frustrating. I'm going to stop and do this again. Sorry. This is just me being inept at running my own computer. Pretty good for a digital producer, huh? I told you, I'm a data nerd who can't count. It's very confusing. Okay, so the next exercise, so what we've talked about is about the vulnerability and the fact that we feel like we're a bit disempowered. We get this free service, but there's all this other value that's happening and all these other impacts about our behavior and things, and it's very difficult to get hold of that. So how do we make our own channels to show our power as users? How can we make our own channels, you know? So the activity that I thought we could do is write a breakup letter, basically. So Tinder, Glow are both in their different ways related to the world of romance and love. And we have a very personal connection with our phones and with these apps, and we share this like super personal information with them. So I thought it might be fun to write a breakup letter and do it instead of on the computer, just do it with a pen and paper, like old school, write that letter, like step out of the technology world and think about them, think about the data flows, think about those power dynamics, and think about, you know, if you were in a relationship with one of these apps, like how, and then you found out all this information about what it was doing, it was reading your diary and then telling all his mates about them, how would you feel? So I thought we could take a little bit of time to, hopefully you've got pens and paper around, write the letter. Then if you're happy to share it, then take a photo and upload it to Miro. If you have time, you could add some drawings or GIFs or whatever, decorate it as you want, but then it might be quite a fun kind of record of trying to speak in a different voice, in a different way, to these platforms. So that's the activity. I tell you what we'll do. I'm just going to give you guys 15 minutes to do that. I'm gonna put my we'll step away. I'll give you a shout in 15 minutes time. Have some, you know, grab a bite to eat, make a cup of tea, write the letter. If you need more time after 15 minutes, we can have more time because we've got half an hour left in the session. So 15 minutes, and then if you guys are happy to share, we can share each other's breakup letters. Sound good? All right. See you guys at 1:15. Ah, new letter, amazing. And I put on the board, if you're happy to have these images shared on social media, just there's a little yes or no, because it might be fun to share them. But if you don't want that, obviously they're anonymous. Thank you, whoever that was, for consenting to share that image online. I almost feel like we should do a dramatic reading, but maybe not. That might be a bit too much. I'm wondering. It's only just past the time. Dominica, are you there? Leela? Hey, there you go. Hi. We are back. I hope everybody is refreshed and also maybe feels like they've had a bit of catharsis. Oh, amazing. I'm super excited about these letters. How did you guys feel about writing them? What did it feel like?
Have you seen her?
I have seen her, yeah. Breaking up with your OS, huh? So she broke up with him in that film. Oh, spoiler alert. Did it feel good to write it physically? Like, is it a different thing? Like one of you guys has written it digitally and the other of you guys has written it, you know, by hand. Is there something there?
Yeah, I think there is. I'm a fan of writing by hand, and I don't know, it helps my writing process because I start writing one thing and then you realize, oh, maybe you're thinking about something else and it turns into something else.
Yeah.
More
It's
organic.
that flow, and it sort of feels quite permanent, doesn't it? It's not got the kind of same ephemerality. It's like it's a real breakup if you put it pen to paper. So I love PC. I love right at the end here you come in with this beautiful little comment. I never break up. It's hard for me. Yes, it is hard to break up with people. And then I don't know about you, but maybe you're just like behaving incredibly badly, trying to invite being broken up with. Who knows? Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe that's a form of resistance. Does anybody want to read their letter? I don't want to make everybody read their letters, but does anybody want to read their letter? You really don't have
to. Maybe I want to share.
Okay, great.
But I just want to read that PC, who is very silently here with us all the time, and we don't know if it's him or her. He just or she informed us that never break up and that it's hard for him or her.
Mm-hmm.
And so feel free to express, even PC, if you feel like to break up with some application, because this is what is in stake here, you know, about the dating app. And you know, I wrote my letter to Tinder. I have to admit that it was not very honest because I never installed Tinder. But you know, I have to admit how I process it, because I have to say that I didn't broke up with anybody for quite a long time. So it was like, what should I do? So, you know, first thing you Google the template for breakup letter. I go, how you should do? And then it all started, you know, how we are intertwined into these algorithms, you know, using them. And then I realized
it's so meta. There's so many different layers. We're even being told how to break up with people by the algorithms. That's, you know, it's all around us. It's turtles all the way down, as they say. I don't know who says that.
Exactly. But in the end, actually, I was thinking about the reason why to break up with the Tinder, and in the end, the reason was actually, you know, as in a normal life, you know, because I was challenging him or facing him with Match.com actually. And I can share with you, like, actually there is this link in the chat. Actually, it's a project by the Spanish artist Joana Moll. We have on view in Database project, actually, which was created in cooperation with Tactical Tech, and that's when Joana Moll was trying to finding out who is behind the business of data broking and people who owns our personal data through the dating apps. And she found out that Tinder is just one of few companies owned by the American company called Match.com actually. And even further, she found out that this company Match.com is owned by other company that called why I see, I don't know, you can find out in the text. Actually, we will share the link also on the YouTube. So I definitely decided the reason to break up with the Tinder was that I found out that there is this relation between Tinder and the Match.com. So I did a little bit of I turned it into a little bit of comedy opposite to, because breakup letter is a hard thing to do. Usually I think that people even, it's it gets wet from the tears when you are writing it, because when I remember me in the sea when I was 16, 17, and I really write my breakup letter, it was like that. It was very hard to do it actually. But this time it was because of Match. Yeah, Match, you made me broke up with you, Tinder.
Ironically, Match.com made you break up with Tinder because Tinder was too timing you with Match and all of their subsidiary or parent shell companies, whatever. That is a fantastic project and super relevant to all of this kind of stuff. So thanks for raising it. Okay, well, does anyone else have anything they wanted to share? There's a video on one of them. There's one top left. His phone probably just died. A little kid. I love that. That's good. Is there anything anybody wants to share, or any other thoughts, or if anybody wants to talk about their letter, they're very welcome to. We've still got a little bit of time.
I put the GIF on because it just made me think of the Anna Kendrick in Love Life, and this sort of perpetual cycle of going through the wrong type of person, and how it kind of encourages or keeps you in the same phase of your life. If you don't sort of mature and grow up and maybe settle down or do something else. Just how the third-party advertising is probably still sending you things for date nights and things for that lifestyle that if you've run it a while, that they're not as relevant anymore.
Yeah, totally. And maybe we want to tell the platforms that they need to grow up and stop exploiting us.
Yeah.
And that they need some boring data governance structures, even though it's not cool. It's not cool and shiny, but it is good. It's a bit like buying a semi-detached house. It's not cool and shiny, but you need that space. Okay, guys? I don't know anything about, I don't own a semi-detached house. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, does anybody else want to share anything?
I would like to just thank you for this activity because I really enjoyed it. And I had a great fun while writing my letter, but actually it would be great to send them these letters or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we should have a breakup campaign to these guys. Maybe we should see if Mozilla, we could add it to the Monster Match game. But there's something about, I don't know if you guys had this might just have been me, but being a sort of preteen girl, the little stickers that you put on in your diary and all the little hearts and stuff like that would be great to make a toolkit where people could make really, really cutesy breakup letters and send them to the big tech companies. Oh, little hearts over the eyes instead of the dots. Oh, so tacky. Oh, what are you saying then?
I have to say that, when I was writing it and looking at it visually, just I was missing something, some visual element, and the stickers would very much have serve the purpose, a little bit add some spice over the letter.
Yeah, spicy, exactly. That's exactly the right word, a little spicy flair. just being like, oh, you know what? You think I've not got any power, but frankly, you're dumped. So there you go. Oh, that's what I should have called. Guys, why didn't I call this workshop You're Dumped? Damn, that was a real missed opportunity. I'm giving a really serious name, but it should have just been called You're Dumped. Oh, well, listen, we've lived, we've learned, we've got a couple more minutes. So if there's any other thoughts, you're very welcome to share them. But otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye. Any thoughts? Has anybody else really not enjoyed this? You really, actually, that's an awful question to ask. That's putting everybody in the spot. But yeah, any other feedback?
I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the workshop. So thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Okay, I could be here.
And I'm really, really glad, that this is kind of, you said it was kind of a bit of a new topic for you. So A, it's super cool that you're turning up to these highly nerdy workshops and really getting involved. And B, I'm glad that it was interesting and it made sense to you. So that's great.
I just wanted to add that I really enjoyed it as well. And you've kind of tied together some of the things that I've been thinking about, and that's a bit I'm struggling with how to elegantly demonstrate them. So I'm going to look up some of the things you've talked about, and it's been really helpful to me. So thank you.
Awesome. And if you write anything, I'd love to see it. And I also have to, that's something that I struggle with as well. All of these ideas are very like abstract and trying to link them together. And this morning I had a call with Mikhail saying, how do I make this good? And how do I, because I had a couple of other activities in there and stuff as well. And I was like, does this make sense? So thank you. It's a collaboration. So thank you very much for your help and your feedback this morning.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone as well. Good.
Thank you all, and I also want to thank Miranda, because I think this is exactly the ways I was, because when as she revealed when we were discussing, and she was showing me what's her idea. I said, what I see the problem is that the channels, communication channels with these platforms, with the software, with the algorithms we have, is mostly created by them, actually. So we just adjusting to these channels. Actually, when you want to use the helpline, or hotline, you have to call, then you have to go through some process. When you go to send email, all the channels are just set by them. But when you send the email, there is no channel, when you send the mail, when you send the physical mail, or you just post it or send it, that's not channel created by them. And I think this is what I like, this little bit of sense, how you can go opposite way, to think out of the box, actually, just to suddenly start to communicate if they don't expect to. And I think so thank you, Miranda. This was very nice to share, and everybody of you who was here or who was watching us, there is also still, you can get back to her presentation, if you are more interested into finding more about the analysis, or to get to the original source. So get back to the video, watch it again, and then you can do your own, you can start thinking about your own analysis of different apps. But Miranda, thank you for bringing these two examples, these dating apps, these mentor apps, which are so crucial, because those are the ones, not just girls, but we are sharing so sensitive information. Like it's crazy though how far we got into what we are willing to share, actually. So we will do it. We just have to think about it. So also PC is we still don't know she or he, but we loved it. So I think that's so nice. So we loved the workshop, and that's so cool. So Miranda, thank you again. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being jumping into this Uroboros circle, and hopefully see you soon again in Prague or in virtual world. And also thank you to all of you who join us, Dominika, Hannah, Leila, for the workshop, who stay with us, and have a great Friday.